So I was going through one of the retirement forums I follow online. One of those communities where people ask the questions they're too embarrassed to ask out loud. And I came across a post that stopped me. The man said he was 60 years old. He had $11,000 saved for retirement. And before anyone could say anything, he got ahead of it. He explained himself. His wife had gotten seriously ill in her early 50s. 3 years of medical bills that wiped out everything they'd built. Then a layoff at 56 that kept him out of work for almost 2 years. By the time he landed back on his feet, he was 58 and starting from near zero. He wasn't looking for sympathy. He made that clear. He said he understood how it looked on paper, but he needed to know. Was it too late? The responses came in fast. Some were well-meaning but vague. Some were genuinely useful. A few were the kind of thing only someone who's never been through anything hard would say. And I sat with his post for a while because I've had someone close to me in almost exactly that position. A man I've known for years. Same general story. Life came in sideways in his 50s and left him at 60 with almost nothing saved. And I spent a long Sunday afternoon with him walking through what to do. No empty encouragement. No you can do it speeches. An actual plan with real numbers in the right order. So I replied to the post, and what I wrote there is what I want to walk through with you today. Because I'd be willing to bet there are men watching this right now who are closer to that situation than they'd ever say out loud. By the way, if you want to see more videos like this, just quickly hit the subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell. We don't lecture here, just real talk from guys like you living it. Now, before I get into the 5 steps, I want to say one thing directly to any man in that position. The question isn't whether it's too late. The question is what you do with the time you have left. And that's a completely different question. One has an answer that paralyzes you. The other has an answer you can actually act on. 5 years, handled right, changes the picture more than most men expect. Let me show you how. The first step is to stop the bleeding before you do anything else. And I want to be careful about how I say this, because most advice on this point sounds like punishment. Cut everything. Live like a monk. Suffer now so you can breathe later. That's not what I told the man I sat with. And it's not what I wrote in that forum reply either. Here's the real frame. Every dollar that leaves your account right now on something that doesn't genuinely improve your life is a dollar working against you. And at 60 with limited savings, you don't have the margin to keep letting that happen. So the first thing to do is a full accounting. Every recurring expense written down, every subscription, every bill, every automatic payment. Look at each one and ask one question. If I had to choose between this and a more secure retirement, which would I actually choose? For most men, that question answers itself quickly on half the list. And look, I'm not saying strip your life down to nothing. A retirement you resent building isn't worth building. Yeah, but there's almost always money leaving on autopilot that nobody would miss if it stopped. Find it, stop it, and redirect every dollar of it immediately to what we're about to talk about. Because the next step is where the real leverage begins. Now, the second step is to find your real social security number and then protect it like it's the most valuable asset you own. Because for a man at 60 with limited savings, it might be. Here's what I mean. Most men in this situation are planning to claim Social Security at 62, the moment they can get it, because the money feels urgent and the number feels real. And I understand that impulse completely. When you're behind, early money feels like the right move. But here's what claiming at 62 actually costs you. If your full retirement age is 67, which it is for most men born after 1960, claiming at 62 reduces your monthly benefit by about 30%. Permanently, every single month for the rest of your life. And for every year you delay past 67 up to age 70, that benefit grows by roughly 8%. So the difference between claiming at 62 versus waiting until 70 is as much as 77% more per month for the rest of your life, with annual cost of living adjustments stacked on top of that. For a man with limited savings, that monthly Social Security check is the foundation everything else sits on. A larger foundation changes what's possible. Go to ssa.gov right now. Create your My Social Security account. Pull up your projected benefit at 62, 67, and 70. Look at those three numbers side by side, and then understand this. One, every year you continue working past 62 does two things at once. You're adding to the Social Security calculation, and you're shrinking the number of years your savings needs to cover. One extra year of work buys you more than most men realize. Now, speaking of working, the next step is about changing what that work looks like going forward. Okay, the third step, and that's to build a second income stream you can carry into retirement. And I want to be specific here because most advice on this point is aimed at a 35-year-old. Fiverr, Upwork, start a YouTube channel. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking whatever you've spent the last 30 or 40 years getting good at and finding a way to sell that expertise on your own terms. Because here's the reality for a man in his 60s with a career behind him. You are starting from decades of knowledge, experience, and credibility that a 30-year-old would pay serious money to have. The question is just how to point it at income. If you spent your career in operations, there are smaller companies right now who need exactly what you know and can't afford a full-time operations director. If you were in finance, in logistics, in healthcare administration, in construction management, in education, in sales, the same is true. Project work, consulting, part-time arrangements, 2 days a week, your schedule, your rate. Even $1,500 to $2,000 a month in consulting income, applied entirely to savings or used to cover living expenses so your retirement accounts stay untouched, changes the trajectory significantly. And here's the thing I told the man I sat with that Sunday afternoon. Start building this now while you still have the full-time job. Because the client you land at 61 becomes the client who funds part of your retirement at 65. The reputation you build over the next 3 or 4 years becomes the thing that keeps income coming in after you've stopped the full-time work. The best time to build the second stream was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. And look, building a second income after 60 is a whole conversation on its own. One of these days, I'm going to make a dedicated video on exactly how to do it. I'll share my own numbers in that one, and I think some of you are going to be surprised by what's actually possible. Just make sure you're subscribed and you've got the notification bell on so you don't miss it when it goes up. Now, while that second income is building, there's a window open inside the tax code that most men in this position have never heard of. And it closes faster than they think. And that's the fourth step, to work the catch-up contribution window as hard as you possibly can. Here's what that means in real numbers. If you're 50 or older and you have a 401k at work, the IRS lets you contribute more than the standard limit. The standard limit in 2026 is $23,500 a year. If you're 50 or older, you can add another $7,500 on top. That's $31,000 a year going into a tax-advantaged account. And if you're between 60 and 63 specifically, there's a super catch-up contribution. Instead of the standard $7,500 extra, you can put in $11,250 extra. which brings your total potential contribution to $34,750 a year. Now, a man at 60 with $11,000 saved, contributing the maximum catch up amount for 5 years with even a modest investment return, crosses $200,000 by 65. That's not a comfortable retirement number on its own. But combined with a maximized Social Security benefit and a part time consulting income, it becomes a foundation that actually works. And here's the thing about this window that most men don't internalize until it's too late: it closes. The super catch up contribution is most powerful between 60 and 63. After 63, it drops back to the standard catch up amount. After 70, you're dealing with required minimum distributions coming out of accounts instead of money going in. The window is open right now. Use it. And if you're doing any consulting or part-time work, a SEPIRA lets you contribute up to 25% of your net self-employment income, up to $69,000 a year. Every dollar of consulting income you can funnel through a SEPIRA is a dollar building your retirement instead of sitting in a checking account. Now, this is the step most men resist the most because it requires adjusting a picture they've carried in their heads for a long time. And that is to delay retirement strategically and reframe what that actually means. Most men at 60 with limited savings are carrying a picture of what retirement is supposed to look like. Full stop at 65, done working, living on savings and Social Security. And when the savings aren't there to support that picture, they feel the gap between where they are and where they were supposed to be. That gap creates a kind of weight that makes it hard to think clearly. So let me offer a different picture. Working until 67 or 68, selectively on your own terms, doing work that uses what you know, is a fundamentally different experience than what you've been doing for the last 30 years. The pressure is different. The relationship to the work is different. When you know the work is funding freedom rather than just covering bills, you carry it differently. And here's what those extra years actually do for your financial picture. Every year past 65 that you work, you are contributing to savings. You are leaving savings untouched and growing. You are adding to your Social Security calculation, and you are shortening the number of years your savings needs to support you. One extra year of work does 4 jobs simultaneously. The man I sat with that Sunday afternoon retired at 68, 3 years later than he had originally imagined. And he told me afterward that those 3 years were the least stressful working years of his entire career. Because he wasn't working to survive anymore. He was working to build. And there's a real difference between those two things. Now, I want to address something the forum post touched on that most of the replies glossed over: the emotional weight of being in this position. The man on that forum was quick to explain himself. He wanted people to know it wasn't his fault. His wife's illness, the layoff, the years of just holding things together. And I believe him. I know enough men who've been through versions of that story to know it's real. But here's what I said in my reply that I want to say clearly here too. The explanation of how you got here matters to you. It matters for your own peace of mind. Carrying blame for circumstances that were genuinely outside your control is a weight that doesn't help you move forward. And the explanation doesn't change the math. The math is what needs your attention right now. The most useful thing a man in this position can do with the emotion around it is set it aside long enough to make a plan. Do the accounting. Find the Social Security number. Identify the consulting opportunity. Open the catch-up contribution. Set the new retirement timeline. None of that requires feeling okay about how you got here. It just requires getting to work. So here's where I want to land. What I wrote in that forum reply was a framework. None of these steps require luck. None of them require things to go perfectly. They require decision and then follow through. The man who posted on that forum wanted to know if it was too late. My answer was this: it's too late for the retirement you might have had if you'd started at 35. That version is gone and there's no point grieving it. But the retirement available to you from here, built on these 5 things, is real. And it's available to any man willing to work for it. Go find your My Social Security account this week. Pull the 3 numbers at 62, 67, and 70. Write down every recurring expense and cut what doesn't have to be there. Think seriously about what consulting income looks like in your specific field. And call your HR department to find out exactly what your 401k catch up contribution limit is right now. One step this week, then the next one. That's how the man I sat with got out of it. And it's how anyone else can too. And if today was useful, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because there are men sitting on that question right now. Is it too late? And getting answers that don't actually help them. And if you're not already part of this community, come join us. Because what we do here is exactly this: real situations, real numbers, real talk from guys who've actually been through it. Hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. See you in the next one.